really fantastic to have you here. It's so lovely to be hosting this event jointly between Munich Re and Swiss Re. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Boddy. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Global Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion here at Munich Re. We are really excited to be doing this event with Dive In. We have been supporting Dive In and sponsoring them for a number of years now. For those of you that don't know, it's a global festival across our wonderful insurance, reinsurance industry, celebrating everything about diversity, equity and inclusion. This is the first time for Munich Re, certainly, that we have done an event in the headquarters for Dive In, and I'm really delighted that our first event is jointly with Swiss Re. Normally there's lots of reasons why we can't talk to each other, but today is one of those reasons where we can talk to each other, and we can really look at where are those synergies across our industry and beyond, where we can work together on this important topic of generations. It's high on our agenda here at Munich Re. I know it is at Swiss Re as well, in terms of our workforce being ever more generationally diverse than it has been, and how we really make the most of that wonderful diversity that sits amongst the generations to build, an even better reinsurance industry for the future. So thank you very much for coming. I want to do some of the traditional thank yous that you might expect at the end of an event like this now, because I actually think they're important to say up front. So I really want to just thank everybody that's been involved in putting this event together. Any of you that are involved in any kind of event management will know what goes behind something like this. The more simple the event is, the more organisation has gone behind the scenes. So I'd like to thank all the colleagues from Munich Re, from Swiss Re, all of our colleagues from RES who've supported this event. There's been a lot of hands that have gone into it. I would particularly like to thank Alexander Halfen from my team, who has been spearheading everything today, and why we find ourselves here with everything fantastically organised. So please join me in a round of applause for thanking everybody that's put together today. We have a fantastic programme this afternoon. We're going to be hearing from our keynote speaker in just a second, and then we are hearing from our wonderful panel of colleagues to really give us some more insights onto this topic of generations. As you might hope, the panel are intergenerationally representative, so that we can really tackle some of the important topics. But for now, I want to hand over to our keynote speaker today, Paul von Preußen, who's going to introduce himself and kick us off with some important thoughts. So please.
Hey, how are you? So fine? So I won't be able to have this great British accent. It's just me, a German, trying to speak English. And also, you can get used to being asked questions from my side. So I'm not here to give you some information. You can just sit there and relax and be bored. But I really want to talk to you. And if you have any concern, any question, anything that interests you, something you want to say, just stand up and shout out, okay? Or you can be seated and shout out and raise your hand or whatever. Obviously, we'll have the panel discussion afterwards, and we'll also have our Q&A. But if there's anything you're interested in or you particularly want to talk to, just do so, okay? This is the safe space, and I would really be happy to not just stand here and have like my monologue, but talk to you. And we'll also have an experiment in about 15 minutes, but I'll talk about that later. You have to know there's going to be a winner of this experiment, okay? And it could also be, and I therefore want to also say hello to all the people joined virtually. It could also be someone from all over the world, because we are streaming it into all the different places. Any questions so far? Wow, that never happened before. Like, it's the first time it ever happened. Okay, hey. Okay, we'll come to that later. Okay, guys, so if he's not winning, then I don't know, but keep in mind, he's the guy who really wants to win. Okay, what's your name? Osman. Okay. My name's Paul, and I'm 28 years old. I'm married. I have a cute little daughter in Berlin. I'm coming from Berlin right now. And maybe in just 2 or 3 sentences, I want to tell you who I am so that you actually know who's talking to me right now. I founded Digital Aid, which is a network of about 300 young people between 16 and 30 years. And we are matching them with big corporates in Germany, the DACH realm, and also some European countries to try to explain the perspective of the young generation on topics like digital transformation, recruiting, sustainability, and many, many other topics. We are organizing reverse mentoring programs, for example. And the funny thing about that is that we're not only working with big corporates, but also with organizations like the Catholic Church, for example. Because, and this is something I want to say, when it comes to generational exchange and intergenerational work, it's not only for Munich Re, it's not only for Swiss Re, or it's for everyone, okay? So I think I don't have to talk to you about like all the stuff we're doing with Digital Aid. I think that's not what you've come for. I think you've come for this. I'm doing a bit of theoretical base work in the next few minutes. Okay, so just listen and repeat. Then we'll have a quiz. And for that, you will need your smartphone. So this is the only time today you're allowed to use your smartphone, okay? Afterwards, we are going to have our panel discussions and the Q&A, but we'll come to that later. I think the situation is clear. I don't have to talk about digital transformation and how important this is, and agile work and everything. And I think also I don't have to talk about how important diversity, equity, and inclusion is. Okay, I think we are all aware. I mean, you joined voluntarily, I think. So I think you're all aware that when it comes to diverse teams, they are more successful. And that's not only about gender, for example. It's about many, many, many different factors. And in Germany, we are mostly talking about, I don't know, the gender, for example, some other factors, religion, for example, but it just became a topic within the last years that we are also talking about age, about generations. And this is something that I would like to dive in within the next minutes together with you. And again, if you have anything to say, just say it, okay? I just talked to some guys of Swiss Re and Munich Re, and you told me that, I think if I remember that right, the within the next 5 years, about 50% of the workforce won't be at Munich Re anymore because of retirement. 50%. I would say that's quite a high number, right? And I would also say this is why within the last years, the news, the politicians, everybody started to talk about generations. And to be honest, this is not a new topic, okay? So 2000 years ago, the Greek they said about the young generation that we are lazy, we don't know how to dress, and we don't know how to work. And you know, this is something that currently, when you look at the newspapers, when you talk to managers, for example, they would say the same, okay? The topic is not, it's not new. But what is new is that when we're talking about workforce, things changed within the last years. And this is why we are now discussing those topics. And it's becoming maybe more important. I would say it was important all the time, but now currently everybody's talking about it because there's this, I love this German word, Fachkräftemangel, right? I'm not going to talk about that in detail, but what it means is there are not as much young people coming up than older and more experienced people going out of the labor market. And this is why we're discussing this. Okay. And I'm sure you know those graphs, okay? I'm sure you've seen those graphs. I don't have to dive into that. I don't have to tell you that the demographic change is a huge topic. And I'm also sure that you know about the generations. I'm also sure that you know in which generation you are. I won't ask. But just to give you a few overviews on that, if you were born until 1945 or 1946. Then you're called a traditionalist. I don't know. Then obviously the baby boomers. There's no, like, I think there's no day on social media, on the newsletter papers, newsletters, wherever, where no one is talking about the baby boomers. It's a huge topic, and I would say it's one of the biggest trends, demographic change, together with digital transformation and sustainability that we are facing as organizations as well. Which is why you can read everything about that. Gen X until 1979, then Gen Y, the Gen Z, and then Gen Alpha. What comes after Gen Alpha? Gen Beta, yeah. So I don't know, and not very creative on that. On the one side, we have the digital natives. So the generations that at least the media says knows technology, and we were raised up with the smartphone, with the internet. I don't know a world without the internet, okay? What do we call the people on the other side? The best answer I got was digital alien. But it's wrong. It's wrong. Analog generation, yeah. Digital nomads, nice. Most of the time, they are referred to as digital immigrants. And what I like about that is, and this is one of the most important messages I have. Actually, it's not about the age. Okay, so when it comes to digitization and to digital trends, it's like a language, right? Coding is a language as well. And when we're talking about learning Spanish, for example, you can learn Spanish if you're 10 years old or if you're 80 years old. It doesn't matter, okay? The only thing that might be the difference is that if your mother or father, if your parents are talking Spanish to you, it's much easier for you to learn the language than going to school and learning it there. And I would say that's one of the differences maybe between the digital natives and the digital immigrants, but it's not about the age, it's more about the mindset, okay? Still, many people are talking about the young generation as lazy, over-demanding, and it's actually an important topic in the media as well. I realized that when a few years ago, Joe Keser, the former Siemens boss, told Luisa Neubauer, 23 years old, head of Fridays for Future Germany, asked her if she would like to join the non-executive board of one of the daughters of Siemens. And when I read that, I understood, well, this is a huge topic, okay? And I would like, within the next minutes, talk maybe a bit about things you have heard about the older generation, maybe about the younger generation, and you will see that it always comes to the conclusion, maybe we are not that different at all, okay? So let's start. We are working together with some generational sociologists who are asking every day, they're asking people on the streets about what they think about, and they also try to put that into the narratives of generations. And one question that was asked last year to the baby boomers and to the Gen Z as well, thousands of baby boomers and Gen Z were asked, what's your biggest fear? What would you say is the biggest fear of baby boomers? War, interesting. Health, retirement. War is right, war in Europe. Poverty in old age and inflation. Very interesting. And now what would you say are the fears of the Gen Z? The same, but without the poverty in old age, maybe. Nice. You know the topic, okay? Nice. Okay. So I wouldn't say this is a surprise, okay? I think that's basic. The next one, I have three facts on the generations. That was the first. This is the second. The highest motivation when it comes to work. What motivates you the most when it comes to work, to the daily job you're doing? Cash. content interesting? Sorry? Appreciation, really nice. So cash was only placed third at the baby boomer side. And you can read that in many studies. Cash is always in the top 3, but it's not always on top 1 for the older generation. Doing something useful was very important to many of the baby boomers who were asked, and also doing something good, doing good work, high quality work. Cash, on the other side, was number 1 for the Gen Z, okay? And then fun and also reaching my own goals, which I think is everyone who tells you, no, the young generation is all about purpose. Sorry, that's bullshit, okay? It's an important factor. And when it comes to, sorry, I'm just getting to you. When you're talking about the pyramid, the Maslow'sche Bedürfnispyramide, as I learned at university, then one of the most important foundations is money, obviously. But then it comes to different layers. I mean, many companies can pay you, okay? So when there are, for example, 10 companies and I can decide it's almost the same salary, then the second and the third layer becomes more important. And then also we're talking about the purpose discussion as well. Yeah, so there were many answers they could answer to. I think it was 15 possible answers they could say, and those are only the top 3. But what I think is really interesting, as you said, that doing something useful was like a majority that said that on the baby boomer side, but it wasn't even 50% saying it's money as top one topic for Gen Z, which also shows there are many different motivations. And it also shows maybe that it's maybe a bit too easy to just say, well, the Gen Z is like this and the baby boomer generation is like that. Please pick up your smartphone. This is only a test. Please pick up your smartphone and take a look at your screen time. Would be very interesting. If you have 2 devices, you have to add the first screen time, then the second. And I just wanted to tell you that the average baby boomer screen time is around 3 hours per day on the smartphone, okay? Those are numbers from, I think, 22, so it might be a bit higher now. And when it comes to Gen Z, the average screen time is 7.3 hours. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. I couldn't believe it. But when you're then again thinking about school, for example, when you're learning with iPads, etc., it makes sense that that could sum up in such an amount. The even more interesting thing is that around 13% of Gen Z said they are spending more than 12 hours a day on their smartphone, which I think this is a really high number. Okay. Okay. What do you see here? The first question: do you know the painting? What's the painting? Nachtwache, very nice. Where? Amsterdam. What's the name of the museum? Rijksmuseum. Very nice. And what do you see? Young people bored of culture, then only using their smartphones. No, what actually happened is that the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam developed an application where you can take a look at your smartphone and just take a look at the some background information on the paintings. So when we're talking about generations, it's maybe not as easy as what we saw before with the numbers. Are you like this or are you like that? So think about biases when we're talking about generations. Last question I want to ask: what would you say are the top values of the baby boomers in? This is a German number now. What are the top values? What are the most important values in your life? Family? Friends? Stability, community, maybe? Yeah, health, family, and freedom. When Gen Z was asked, it was completely different. family, health, and freedom. Okay, so we are maybe not as divided as people want to say. But still, who of you remembers where he or she was when 9/11 happened? I don't know. Okay, I was 5. So I just want to show there are still some things that we, for example, can't remember. Or when I see a plane, I don't think about safety or something. I maybe think about Fridays for Future, for example, right? So there are certain events that have impact on what we're doing and what we're thinking as well. Please take out your smartphones now and go to the site kahoot.it. It's KAHOOT.IT, not .de, .com, .org, .it, okay? And then you land on this side, and you have to put in 910567. So you see there, kahoot.it, 910567. Put in a name. You can call yourself as you want, but please remember your name, because at the end we want to see who won this whole game, okay? So while the last people are dialing in, I want to tell you how you can win this challenge, this quiz, okay? How is it working? In a second, you will see a question on this screen, and you have the options to answer on your smartphone screen, and then you press the answer option you think is right. How can you win this whole thing? Right answer and the fastest answer as well. Be fast, okay? For each question, for each answer, you can receive 1,000 points. After 9 questions, we are done, and we'll see who won. Okay, you see how many people are online joining. I have to cut this now, so if you're not fast enough, I'm sorry. So please start the game, and we are starting with the generation quiz in a second. Great. With the first question of the generations quiz. Are you ready? The first question is, which social media platform is this? So now you see the answers: YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Type it in, type it in, type it in. You have 15 seconds left. And let's see who is right. So I see we have 150 answers right now, 160, 4 seconds left. That's a really easy question, okay? It's a TikTok. I don't have to explain it. Sorry, it's not only Gen Z questions, okay? So the others, you will have your fun later. Next question, please. And in between, we can always see, sorry, next question, please. And the technology guys, can you type on the next button, please? Thanks. Okay, so Hugo is on place 1, but there's still some answers left. Next, please. True or false? I can store 15 MB. That's not for the Gen Z, okay? That's not a Gen Z question. Guys, come on. Okay, 1 second left. It's wrong. It's 1.5, okay? Okay, next question. Okay, who is place number 5? Next question. Many thanks. The youth word of year 2023 was NPC, Goofy, Side-Eye, or Slay. Okay, 130 answers. I would say this is an easy question, right? Easy, easy. 1 second left. Guys, come on. It's Goofy. And Goofy is like in German tollpatschig, okay? Next question, please. We can skip that and already go to the next question. Who isn't a Beatle? Paul, John, Richard, or George? Okay, 10 seconds left. 150 answers. Maybe that's a bit tricky, but I would say the Beatles. I mean, you have to know the Beatles, right? The right answer is Richard. Nice. That was easy. The next question, please. So, halftime. Who am I? And guys, this is really easy, okay? Kim Kardashian, Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, or Billie Eilish? This is even easier than the Beatles question. Five seconds left. Still some undecided people. Okay, the answer, of course, is Billie Eilish, the famous Gen Z singer. The next question. What is this about? The duck stays outside, I don't count tiles, not without swimming trunks, or men have to shower. You know what this is referring to, right? Loriot, maybe you heard the name. All the Gen Z like, who's Loriot? The duck stays outside, obviously. Okay, just watch the video and then you know. Next question, please. When was the first moon landing? 1959, 71, 61, or 69? You don't have the time to Google, guys. If you are Googling, you're losing. And 5 seconds left. I know the answer. It's 69, right. Very nice. We're coming to the last questions. 8 of 9. Which value is in the top 3 for young and old? If you listened, you know. Friends, flexibility, freedom, or feedback. This is just a test for me to see who's listening. Nice. Freedom. Many thanks for the listeners. Guys, it's okay. A third just don't listening. I think it's all the online people maybe. And the last question now. According to Vogue, the following trend is back in this year. The tramp stamp, the dead bot, the undercut, or the bucket hat. If you're on social media, you'll immediately know. Okay, it's the Arschgeweih, the tramp stamp. Nice. Just take a look at most of the influencers or some very important influencers right now. And I love this question because everybody's like, what? Obviously, you don't have a tramp stamp, but you don't know. You can, okay, I'll stop on that. Now, please listen, because now we are talking about the 3 winners of the Generations Quiz here in Munich 2024. The next, please, and then we'll take a look. On place number 3, please, a round of applause for Beaver. Is Beaver here or online? Hugo, and on place number 1, Emil Elsa. Is Emil Elsa here? Online. So, congratulations. Or are you Emil Elsa? No. Okay, congratulations to Emil Elsa. Okay. You've seen, I mean, this is just fun, right? But in the last minutes before we're coming to our panel discussions, I want to talk about why this is important. And this is KYC, okay? But KYC in a good way. KYC as know your colleague. I want to talk in those last minutes before we're entering the panel discussion about 3 ideas how we can bring generations together. Sometimes a very easy, like really easy idea, and maybe also something for the people who say, well, I'm talking to the younger ones or the older ones, and then I also have maybe some interesting ideas for you to think about. I just want to inspire you, and then afterwards in the panel discussion we maybe also can discuss if you have any experience on those formats. When was the last time you asked somebody for his or her opinion who was younger or older than 30 years younger or older on a business-related topic? I hope you think about it and say, well, yesterday or today, maybe. I wouldn't say that this is unnormal, right? When it's not about age, I mean, then this should be normal, right? It's really easy. Just try it out. It works like this. You say hello to someone, you maybe drink a coffee or a tea, and you just have a chat. Okay, really easy. And it's no rocket science, but if you think about that, if you would do this like every week, for example, every Monday, just a coffee with somebody 30 years older or younger than yourself, might there be any change you would see in your life or in your teamwork or whatever? Maybe, just as a small idea. The second idea. Who of you knows those two fashion brands, Prada and Gucci? Okay. You don't, obviously. Okay. They are competitors, as you all know. And in 2014, they did around the same number in sales in 2014. And in 2018, Prada had a bit had bad numbers, minus 12%. And Gucci did something in 2015. They changed the management board. Some managers went and some new managers came in, and they had one idea: to create a shadow board of generations coming into the management board. And when they're discussing certain topics, giving them feedback on it. If it's because I don't know about you, but when I used to work for a commerce bank as the how do you say that? Personal assistant to the HR member of the management board, Sabine Schmidroth. And when I was in the management board meetings, it was always the same picture. They talked about topics, and most of the times they had a common consensus. I didn't say anything because I was not allowed to, obviously, right? But what Gucci said is, we want to bring in some new ideas, and we want to get honest feedback in our management discussions. So they created this shadow board, and the first idea those people in the shadow board came with, it was a discussion about how to reach the younger generation. Let's work together with people from the hip hop scene. And Gucci was like, hip hop, like in 2015 it was like Gucci and hip hop, that was not a relation. And in 2015, nobody knew what influencers are. Nowadays, everybody knows. Gucci was one of the first fashion brands working with influencers. And in 2018, they made huge more sales than Prada. Now you can say, well, that could base on many different factors, right? But the management board especially said, and there's a huge article in Harvard Business Review, for example, on that the shadow board was one really important initiative. What I want to show with this is, when we're talking about generations, it's not a topic, let's just, I don't know, have some happy time and that's it. No, it really has an impact. It can really have an impact on your numbers when you're bringing the generations together. How does it work? Choose a board. It doesn't have to be the management board. It could also be like the round meeting you are having in your team once a while. Select challenges that you want to invite. I would say from both sides and many different generations. And to be honest, this doesn't only refer to generations, right? When you're thinking about it. And then, this is not the coffee talk, right? This is a bit more hard to implement. Try to see how you can put this into a process that really works in your organization. The last idea before the panel discussion. Who of you heard about reverse mentoring? Nice. It's about 50%, I would say. So mentoring, but the other way around. Young people mentoring more experienced ones. This is something that I would ask everyone to do. How does it work? You choose a mentee, or you choose your mentor. You find a match. And this doesn't have to be Munich Re or Swiss Re or whatever organization that's saying, we're organizing this for every one of you. You can do that on your own. Find someone you regularly want to talk to for, I don't know, half a year, for example, at least every second week, every third week, every fourth week, doing something together, maybe starting a little project on your own, and give them the allowance to speak into your life. Okay? And this is something that could change many, many things. if you're interested in that, we have the Q&A for all of the questions you have, anything you want to comment. I can give us some insights on that. And then what always helps if you're working for a huge organization, as I suppose most of you do, start with a pilot. A pilot doesn't hurt. You can, if it's not working, you can say, well, it was just a pilot. But if it's working, it's going to have a huge impact on what you're doing. Now, when we're thinking about tomorrow and next week, I would invite you to not only talk about generational dialogue, but do it, okay? And this is how I would like to end. Let's not talk about each other, but let's talk to each other. And we want to do this on our panel now, and I'm very happy to invite you four. Please join me on the stage. Many thanks. Andreas. Do you want to have some water? That would be fantastic. That was the first official question. Okay, help yourself. This is your water. Okay, so obviously we are talking about generations here, and we have some different generations on this stage today. And I don't know if you, when the last panel was that you listened to, but I don't want to ask boring questions, okay? Mm-hmm. And what I really would like to hear is your stories and experiences from your own life where you, for example, saw obstacles when it came to generational dialogue. When did you face maybe biases in your life when it came to generational dialogue, but also good ideas that I would like you to share. And Alice, I would like to start with you. Maybe you can, in 2 sentences, tell us who you are, what you're doing right now. And then when was the last time you talked to somebody who was 30 years younger or older than you?
So Allison Krill, I work on the Munich Re side. I look after technology for our central functions, as well as reinsurance, property and casualty. I'm sort of interesting in that I'm American, but I've lived 27 years now outside of the US, mostly in the UK, but also in Asia Pacific, and I've been in Germany for 4 years. I'm quite fortunate in that I do have in technology a diverse, generally distributed team. So I regularly engage with younger parts of my workforce. And I think in technology, that's very important because that different generation has grown up with technology in a very different way than myself. I didn't have a smartphone until I was in my late 30s. So learned technology, and technology has changed drastically throughout the time, even in my work life.
Mm. When was the first moment when you saw that? Like, when did you realize that?
So I would say in my career, when I started, technology was sort of a secondary function. It was a support function. And then probably about halfway through my 30-year career, it switched to technology is now the business. And without technology, the business doesn't function. And I saw early on as a sort of manager that the people coming out of university had far greater skills and capability that I really needed to listen to and tap into if I was going to be successful and if we were going to be successful as a team. But having said that, you need both because we also have systems built on Cobalt and mainframe, and they still provide value-add services. Doesn't make sense to replace. So you need that balance of older skills and newer skills combined.
Many thanks. Maybe we can talk about this topic, as you are both from Munich Re, you, Allison, and Darius, you as well, because I've heard about a project that you are, Darius, currently working with in Munich Re that wants to bring together the generations. Maybe you can also say something on what you're currently doing at Munich Re and then about this project, because I loved it when I heard about it.
Yeah, maybe just a few sentences about myself. My name is Darius. I moved to Munich a little bit more than a year ago, working group internal audit. And yeah, regarding the initiative, it's called an ERG, Employee Resource Group. It's called Beyond Generations. But actually, the backstory to it is a little bit more complicated. So when I first moved to Munich, and I first joined Munich Re a little bit more than a year ago, in July 2023, it was a time of great change. And at the time, there were a lot of new joiners all joining at the same time. So our ML1 decided to create something called a New Joiners Club. So it's a platform for new joiners to reflect on their experiences in working on projects, and also how they work with more senior colleagues that's also within the same department. So overall, I think the output was, I should call it, first 100 days of insights or impression of the team, and really worked on our way, looked into our ways of working. And for me, it was a great opportunity and a platform to exchange different ideas, and also to have this kind of cross-generational dialogue. And all in all, we expanded the topic a little bit. So instead of an intra-department initiative called New Joiners Club, we expanded it a little bit more to encompass all of Munich Re. So right now it's called Beyond Generations. So working very closely with HR to continue this dialogue, to having cross-generational dialogues. And right now we're planning. First thought is to also copy the experience from the New Joiners Club. For example, to focus on experience sharing. We've talked to certain underwriters that are in marine. He switched careers, I think, from being a sea captain. And also I believe there's a hacker who also joined Munich Re in the area of IT. So I think for us, it's important to have this kind of cross-generational dialogue, from people from different backgrounds. And yeah, that is what we're currently focusing on, and hopefully we'll take it to the next step. It is still a bit of a newer initiative, because we started in May earlier this year. That's when we have our initial kickoff. But yeah, we're hoping we can expand it further.
I love that. So talking about this project, in many companies I've worked together with, there are only a few that really started those initiatives, and I really love to hear about that. And you can be sure that within the next years, I'm going to have an eye on this project to see how you're doing. Before we are coming to the other side, I want everyone again to take out their smartphone and tell me what's your average screen time you have on your smartphone when you take a look at the screen. 1, 2, 3 numbers. I would just be very interested. So you see that when you're clicking on this gray app, and then take a look at Bildschirmzeit, screen time, and then you see it. Today, for me, it's 3 hours. It's not activated. On your private device, yeah, 2 hours. 2 hours as well. 1.5. Great workout here, huh? 1 hour. Wow, nice. Andreas.
Yes.
What is your screen time?
I wouldn't know. It's not activated.
Okay. And so
but way too long, probably.
So you only have the device from Swiss Re that they gave to you, or do you have a private device as well?
Correct. One device only.
Interesting. I'm coming to that in a second. Oof. Yeah, it's a topic. But before that, so I would be interested, Andreas, the first question, as I asked the other ones as well, what are you doing? And then I, for example, have 2 smartphones, because I say the one is where I work on and the other one is my private life. And for me, it's important that it's kind of separate, at least in my head. It's not a topic for you, or you just wanted to save some money. That would be something that I just wanted to start with.
Right. Okay, so first of all, thanks for inviting me. Great to be here. I'm Andreas Dobner. I'm a banker by training. So I used to work in banking, corporate banking, for quite a few years. Before then, I joined Swiss Re, and actually not in Germany, but in Brazil for a few years. So actually, maybe we come to that as well, that there's other aspects of diversity as well, which I thought was actually interesting for me at that time as well, but also generationally. And now I'm in charge of key account management for credit and surety in Swiss Re. One device only more than one device would kill me in like organizationally. I mean, I look at people and they carry around 2, sometimes even 3 devices. Then they have an iPad under their arm and maybe a notebook or something. And I go nuts already when I sometimes feel the let's say the weight of the device in my pocket, or look it up or try to find it. And actually, the separation between private and personal and professional life, it doesn't bother me. Honestly, it doesn't. And I also will admit that just as much as occasionally during work, I look up private emails. As much I I check professional emails, say every other day on my vacation, for example, for a couple of not for a couple of hours, maybe half an hour, and it doesn't typically bother me. So I prefer the simplicity over, let's say, the separation.
And when you're taking a look at, for example, younger people working for Swiss Re, do you see a difference?
I think you have both probably. I see a tendency for people to be more tech savvy in the way that they maybe also have an increased interest in having different devices, but maybe not even necessarily because of the separation. I may be wrong there, but maybe also because they want different gadgets, different possibilities, capabilities, and all of that.
Yeah, very interesting. So because there's often this point of view that people are saying, well, the more experienced generations, they don't really care about work-life balance. And the younger people, they are caring about it because they saw at their parents' life that it's not working. Would be very interesting to discuss that, but I have some other topics as well. If you're interested in that, we'll have the Q&A afterwards to talk about that. Jasmin, I would like to ask you as well what you're doing at Swiss Re, and then maybe you can maybe take us on this journey when you started at Swiss Re. Were there any, for example, obstacles that you had to work with when it comes to generational dialogue, or is there any advice that you would give the younger Jasmin when it comes to generational dialogue?
Of course. My name is Jasmin. I'm born and raised in South Korea. And for the last 8.5 years, I have been navigating my life here in Germany. And I'm 30 years old, representing millennial generation like Darius and also Gen Y. And I'm happy to be here to looking forward to have further discussion with you all. And for your questions, any advice for the person who start career and reflecting myself as I started my career. I mean, I obviously did not start my career at Swiss Re first, because I started my career at KPMG. And then I think the challenge that I faced at the time was starting my work remotely. And starting my work remotely means actually I missed out that in-person interaction or face-to-face interactions. And I think without that personal interactions, public speaking and giving presentation has been very challenging for me. And now I'm sitting here and talking to you all. Right now, this moment is actually the moment of vulnerability and the chaos. And an experienced colleague from Swiss Re advised me to stay in the corridor between the comfort zone and the chaos. The chaos is where your real growth happens, and you should stretch yourself. And the comfort zone is where you can retreat and then recharge yourself. And today, I think I'm stepping that corridor and leaning to the chaos. And then the advice that I wanted to give to someone who started a career right now is that don't avoid your challenges and embrace them, and seek guidance from the other colleagues or experienced colleagues across generation, and follow the advice if it's suitable for you.
Wow, very strong. Many thanks. Yeah, many thanks. I mean, that really is a great story or a great example of generations working together, right? And more like a more experienced colleague telling you, hey, maybe I see something that you don't see, and I want to give you this or that advice, something that really works out. And it also works out the other way around, I would say. For example, you talked about the people coming from university, being digital natives. Maybe, Allison, this would be something that I wanted to know from you. How do you create moments in your day-to-day work life to get insights from older or younger generations. And is this a topic that you actually don't really think about because it's normal, you don't care about the age in a positive way? Or is it actually something that when you take it in an honest perspective, still might be in the one way or the other way challenging?
Yeah. So I think it is challenging because you need to make sure that people feel that you're accessible. And I think as you become maybe more senior in your role and your responsibilities, I think people sometimes hesitate to reach out or they're nervous to reach out. And so for me, one of the things I really focus on is being visible, but also approachable, because I think it's very important for younger, older, any generation, but everyone in the team to feel that they can reach out to me if they have a concern, an issue, or even an idea. And one of the things I think we do well within the technology organization is we have these regular speed coaching sessions. And maybe the intent when they were set up was that the more senior would coach the more junior. But I actually get more out of those sessions because what I often find is the person coming to me, I'm learning more from them, or I feel that I'm learning more from them than maybe I'm giving in some cases. And I think one thing I would give. So I'm the 50 plus generation, but looking back on me as a younger person, I wish that I had more confidence. I felt that I could ask dumb questions and learn from those around me, but also not feel nervous about approaching them.
Andreas, what can people from the more experienced generation do to create this atmosphere that the younger generation can ask dumb questions?
Right. Actually, I think a lot of it is actually happening through the behavior of the younger generation. That is my perception anyways. And maybe it's also just a snapshot of what my reality is. And I'm maybe fortunate enough to be in an environment where there are a lot of middle-aged, younger, or also new joiners that don't have that exaggerated sense of admiration or fear of the older generation. I just love it, honestly, that it's not like that anymore. And occasionally you run into that still, but then I feel like it's fairly easy to break the ice. I mean, you use first names only nowadays in many environments. I know that's maybe not always the perfect magic and it doesn't solve every problem, but I think it's one first easy step to be taken. And what I find quite cool is that I mean, people have broken with a lot of the conventions of the past, right? I mean, like the older having to offer the "du" in Germany, right? You can call me by my first name. It's not happening anymore, right? I mean, like you're half my age, but we met today, and naturally you stretch out your hand and you call me Andreas, and it's perfect.
I hope it was okay.
No, and it's great, right? And I think. So in that sense, and again, maybe we're all in an environment where maybe we can't give you a very good example of the opposite. But I think societies have changed to a large extent already. And even if I look at my dad, I mean, he's mid-80s and he's now totally used to people approaching him and using first names and just having a casual chat, not losing respect because of that, but being very casual with each other. And then I guess it's the art that as the older, the more experienced, potentially more senior person, to then also embrace that and really act accordingly.
Many thanks. Darius, as you talked about the project, but also the experiences you did within the last years, maybe thinking about what could come next. What does I'm just calling it an inclusive insurance. What does that mean to you, this term? Is that like, is there a bell ringing, something that you're thinking about? Why is it important having like this inclusive work environment in your company?
When I think about the term, I think about the products that we may be offering. I think to me, it means that we're providing cover to people that are often neglected or, not or often excluded. I think we can take an example in, maybe the flood in Austria or earlier in southern Germany. These are maybe older people living in rural areas where, oftentimes the coverage for the insured flood losses are not always sufficient. Maybe in a younger generational context, I think younger people are more concerned about financial stability in the long term. We're thinking about decreasing pensions, pension contributions, aging population. So maybe an area of improvement, or let's say a solution for them would be long-term life financing solutions, so life-saving plans. So I think in this market, I think there's also a topic that we talked about internally within the team as well. The consumer needs are constantly changing. And I think ultimately, when you think about the term inclusive insurance, it's about creating a more sustainable, equitable future for everybody, regardless of their background, and to have addressed the risk, of every generation that are oftentimes unique.
Many thanks. Talking about this, I want to ask you, Jasmin, what do you like about the more experienced generation? What do you like about them? Because nowadays we're always talking about the generational clash, right? And about the generational conflict, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about what unites us, right? And I would just love to hear that. Maybe one factor when you're thinking, for example, about the colleague that you mentioned earlier, or other colleagues in your workspace.
So what I think about the older generation, or I think when I think about the older generation, we don't have much differences in the sense. And when we think about the motivation to grow and motivation to excel at their job, I actually recently had a lunch with a colleague there, and then she also expressed her motivation to excel at her job and also grow in her role. And also I actually witnessed that within C3, one colleague who just started to learn data science language, which is R, just before her retirement. And I have seen that's so much admirable, and also something that I wanted to look up.
Wow, many thanks. So we are coming to the last round of questions before we are starting our Q&A. And I want every one of you to just, if you just try to give like a 1 or 2 sentence answer. Thinking about yourself in 10 years. Today, what do you want to have changed within 10 years when it comes to creating an inclusive environment, especially for generational dialogue? What do you want to have in 10 years when we're sitting back here together at the next Dive In event in this room? And I'm asked you, what did you do within the last 10 years to really bring together generations? And I want to start with you, Andreas.
This isn't because I'm the oldest on the panel.
I don't know.
Anything. No, of course not. Actually, it would be good if in 10 years from now, you wouldn't have a reason to do your job anymore.
Nice. Nicely put. But this is about me. What about you?
I was going to say the cliche would be I'll be on a golf course, but I don't play golf at full time. Hopefully, I will have been able to contribute to actually what I just said, meaning that everything becomes more natural. And actually, I would actually go beyond that. And you showed that nice wheel initially with all the different aspects of diversity, right? And I think what I have to say, I think a lot of companies, in my view, narrow it down too much to either gender, or I think what else gets a bit more attention is maybe sexual orientation, but all the rest is not really out there, right? I mean, we have it maybe in policies, we talk about it internally, it sits quietly in some guidances, and you have it fortunately up there on your overview, but it's not taken into consideration holistically, I think. So what I try to say is that one of the other aspects may, in certain circumstances, not even be that important as long as the mix of it shows, let's say, a naturally good spirit of everybody involved, I think, right? Because, I mean, you won't be able to have a fair representation of everybody in everything at all times, especially in small numbers, right? When you have small bases. And I think that's where I would like to contribute consciously or unconsciously. And yeah, more than 2 sentences, sorry.
It's
That
fine.
must be our generation.
Darius, it's your turn now to show that you can do it in a shorter time. No, but in 2034, looking back, what would be the one point that you would have tried to change?
That's an interesting question, because there's a concept called the red light, yellow light, and green light that we discussed in the New Joiners Club, meaning that there are things that you want to do differently, there are things that you want to change, things that you should stop doing, and things that you want to keep. I think, speaking from my experience and my team, I think generally is quite a nice environment of open dialogue. So that's definitely something that I want to keep doing. But back to your question, what I wanted to change. I don't think I can add anything more to what Andreas has already said. So hopefully in 2024, yeah, there won't be any need to have this kind of discussion, because already it's so integrated in our everyday life and everyday work.
Thank you. Jasmin, maybe in 10 years, you're going to be the colleague telling a junior, hey, go out and do this or that. I see this or that in yourself. I could imagine that. Anything that you within the next 10 years would like to take a look at?
What I wanted to do in 10 years for the intergenerational diversity?
Yeah.
That's great questions. Because I was also thinking about the meaning of the inclusive influence for first. I mean, I actually asked ChatGPT to define it, and it came across with a definition that inclusive influence is actually providing insurance product which is accessible, affordable, and suitable for everyone. And I think I want to pursue that to find the balance between the digital solution with the personal interactions, because I personally find it very efficient and convenient to have the digital solution when it comes to insurance products. However, I also have seen a lot of cases that older generation have some difficulties with navigating themselves on the online portal, which can lead to kind of frustration and also sense of exclusion. So I think in 10 years, I want to pursue that to make sure that the balance is there between the digital solution and the personal interaction still.
Nice.
Just don't shut the door.
Great. Allison,
Yeah.
it's for you now to round this whole panel discussion up. So mark your words before going to Oktoberfest. Within the next 10 years, what would you do?
So I would say, similar to Darius, when I started my career, this wasn't a discussion topic, but it was a problem that it wasn't a discussion topic. And I actually have been really passionate and really involved in the topic of diversity and inclusion over the last 15 years because it's needed to be a topic. But I would like, similar to Darius, in 10 years, we don't have to have this discussion because it's business as usual. We have generational teams at different levels of seniority in the organization as well. And we have diversity representing the full society. And I want to, in 10 years, similar to Andreas, I'll be ending my career. So I would like to look back and see the people that I have mentored, that have mentored me, taking the reins and being successful as they move into the following 10 years.
Wow. Many thanks for all your answers. Many thanks, guys. A huge applause for you. Please stay seated. I covered all the questions I wanted to ask, but I can imagine that there are some points, some questions you would like to ask. And I was introduced to how this is working at Munich Re. We don't have microphones here, but we have a microphone. What's the name of this thing? I don't know.
I think it's a catch box.
It's a catch box. So you can throw it around. Or you can just give it back to Katharina, and you will give it then to the next person who want to ask a question. Everything's free, and if you don't want to answer a question, just say so, and I will answer it. Okay. Are there any questions or any maybe a comment you want to make? Let's start with you.
No.
Thank you. Paul from Swiss Read. Thanks very much to the speakers and also to the expert and the audience. I think my question is simple. I wonder how we can fill this room with supporters of diversity, inclusion, etc. So that the dream of all of you 5 guys, maybe not of you, come true, that we don't need such talks. Thank you.
Oh, many thanks. Great question. How can you make this dream come true? Maybe one idea from Munich Re-side and one idea from the Swiss Re-side. And I think, Darius, you obviously have an answer to that, right?
I think the first thought that came to my mind is a tone from the top and to lead by example. I think that I can say for my department as well. I mean, this idea of having a new joiners club, I really appreciate the platform and the opportunity to be able to voice my opinions and my concerns, especially in a company like Munich Re, because I hope I can disclose this statistics. Our median age is somewhere in the 40s. So as a relatively young new joiner, sometimes it could be intimidating for me to voice my concerns and to speak out. So definitely appreciate that. This was I think, to have the opportunity. So I would say, yeah, just to summarize my answer, tone from the top and lead by example.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Anything to add, Jasmin?
It's actually a tough one, I think, because, I mean, when I think about that said, not only myself, but the people I talk to when it comes to such initiatives, I mean, first of all, most people are so caught up in their day-to-day that they don't really spend a lot of time on special initiatives unless they're really close to their heart. And very often, I guess you don't even know if something's close to your heart because you haven't given it enough thought, right? So the question is really, how do you get it close to people? Sometimes I think, maybe coming back to my earlier comment, I think it would be helpful if companies could be a little bit more relaxed about how to approach the topic. I think the main couple of topics that are being advertised, I think there's a certain fatigue already among people, not among all people. I think to a lot of people, I understand it's very, very important, but I think to a large part of the corporate population, very often it's almost a bit unappealing to be kind of like bashed or chased or haunted with these topics. So maybe there's more, I don't know, easygoing ways and also more diverse ways to actually embrace the topics. But do I have the answer how? Honestly, not.
But I think it's an interesting point. Maybe also diverse solutions to answer those questions for the company. Many thanks. Where is the catch? What's the name again? The catch box right now. Okay, here. You can throw to Frank.
Hi, Frank from Swiss Re. And so maybe I want to share a personal observation, and it's going to lead to some open question. I don't know if you can answer. I would just be interested in your view on this. So I started 10 years ago in a consultancy, and there it was a young workforce. So they hired directly from the university, and you knew the people wouldn't stay there for long. But I was working together with like some more experienced with a more experienced workforce from the company where we were consulting. And I felt, well, it's really valuable to have those experienced people because they know the history and they stayed with the company for a very long time. So they could explain you the history and why things are how they are now. Whereas in my generation, I see that people like they switch from one job to another like very fast. So the period that you stay within a company gets shorter and shorter. And so my feeling was, well, of course, you gain a lot of experience moving to another company. But on the other side, I wonder if the company doesn't lose, if they let go of those people that really have some kind of experience with the company and know the history. So there are pros and cons, I know, but I would be just interested what your opinion is on this topic, that like the younger workforce doesn't stay very long or isn't too loyal to the company where they work now. Yeah. Thanks.
I can start and share my perspective. I think we can't be afraid that people want to move and grow and be challenged and have new experiences and roles. But I also think that we need to make sure that they grow, they have those experiences, and ideally stay within the same company. So I think you, as an organization, need to be aware that people aren't going to join a company and be there for 20 years. But make sure that they're getting a value add experience, however long they are staying with you, because that's good for also attracting others in, but also create an environment where it's okay to move between different departments, different roles, and make sure that you're investing in that continuous learning, but also being open to allow people to kind of move within an organization and grow. And I think people stay in a company if they feel that that company is investing in them, they're giving them opportunities, because ideally it's easier for them, they maintain their network, and it's safer sometimes to make lateral moves when you don't need to relearn a new organization. So I think it's about creating that environment where people can grow, but not be sticky to one role and one opportunity.
I think that's a really great answer, actually. Many thanks. The catch box can go to, okay, now we want, okay, I thought you would throw it. Okay.
So I'm also from Swiss Re, sorry for being so dominant here. I also have a proposal. I have the impression that most of us are privileged to work in very diverse teams, internationally diverse, gender diverse, and also young and old generations, everybody in one team. And we basically every day ask each other for opinion on business. We were talking here, we all do it. And we all benefit from the advice of each other. It goes in all directions. When I now look at the framework the company is setting, and I'm not just talking about Swiss Re, I see it in a lot of companies, they divide us into two groups, the young talents and those who, I don't know, once you get 50, there's no talent anymore. You lose your talent when you get 50. The young ones who are always invited to any kind of innovation project. Innovation can't be done when you have experience, apparently. Also, probably everybody who has been in reinsurance for 25, 30 years has changed his or her role many, many times, has learned many different jobs, which implies that there is some kind of innovative talent or agility in you, but that's somehow being ignored, to my impression, by a lot of companies. So my proposal would be, yes, we absolutely need young talents. We need a lot of young work staff, absolutely. But why can we not also try to keep people who are a bit closer to retirement? Why do we treat them once they are 55 as if they would retire tomorrow? Also, there are at least 12 years left, and maybe they would even be prepared to work even longer if they would be treated with interest and appreciation. So I think absolutely fine that we appreciate all these young talents, and they are great, but we should also appreciate people who are in their 40s, 50s, or even beyond.
Wow, yeah. Really nice. Anything you want to say on that? If you don't, I want to. Because it's really important, and actually it's not only important because otherwise it would be unjust, but actually because it's a topic we are facing as a country, for example, as well. Within the last years, I saw many companies focusing on how can we get the best young talents, and they forgot to think about how can we create ways to get the creativity and the thoughts of our most experienced ones into our company again. I talked to a manager who told me, in our company, when you're 55, you won't be able to be part of a development program anymore. And I thought, like, what? Yeah. And this is happening. I sat on a panel a few weeks ago in a huge DAX concern, and the HR representative talked about how they need to find a few thousand talents within the next years after Corona, because they're their need to enlarge their workforce. And he always talked about the young talents. And then there was this question afterwards from one employee who asked, why are you always talking about young talents? Sorry, I'm a talent as well. And I've worked here for 20 years, went through all the crises and everything. And actually, I think this is a really important point. This is something that within the last years, maybe talking about the young generation only was a bit too far on the one side. We have to get it into a balance again. Especially when we think about loyalty, as you said, Frank. If you're only investing into the people, and I would consider myself a more younger or junior employee as well, but still saying this, if you're taking a look at the loyalty of the younger generation, investing into this generation only and seeing that they might leave after 2 or 3 years, and not investing into the people who might want to work with you for the next 10 years, then this is just bad calculation, right? So I absolutely would like to focus on that point. Within the next years, I think that HR and the corporates as well can't work without this opinion. We have time for one last question, and afterwards, I think the floor is open that we can all gather around and talk to each other. One last question from your side. Or maybe a comment or something you just want to share, something you want to say. I think actually many people nodded when you said this, right? So I would say for me, that would be a great comment to end with. And I would really like to invite to now do what we talked about, talk to each other, get to know each other. I would love to not only see Munich Re groups, Swiss Re groups, and some other groups, but right, come together, and this is also a way of inclusion, right? And I once again really want to thank you guys for being part at this panel, Darius, Allison, Andreas, and Jasmin, and now looking forward to have discussions with you. Many thanks.
Thanks to you.
Okay, I think now outside there's some situation where you can have a little snack.